What happens when a billionaire's arrogant daughter is forced to live in a humble Filipino home? What happens when the man she humiliated becomes the only person who can save her? This is a story about pride, pain, and the quiet power of Filipino kindness that changed everything forever. In the heart of New York City, there lived a powerful man named Richard Whitfield. He was the CEO of one of America's largest technology companies. His net worth exceeded $3 billion. He lived in a Manhattan penthouse with his beautiful wife, Catherine, and their only daughter, a 20-year-old college student named Vanessa. Vanessa Whitfield had everything money could buy: designer clothes, luxury cars, exclusive vacations around the world. She attended Columbia University, not because she earned it, but because her father's donations opened every door. She never knew struggle. She never knew hunger. She never knew what it meant to work for something. But Vanessa had a terrible flaw. She looked down on people she considered beneath her: the housekeepers, the gardeners, the security staff. She treated them all like they were invisible. She spoke to them with coldness and cruelty. To Vanessa, people who served her family were not worthy of basic human respect. One autumn morning, Richard hired a new personal driver for the family. His name was Edgar Reyes, but everyone back home called him Mang Edgar. He was a 52-year-old Filipino man from Batangas province. He was calm, humble, respectful, and carried himself with quiet dignity everywhere he went. What most people did not know was that Mang Edgar had been a high school teacher in the Philippines for 18 years. He loved teaching, but the salary was not enough. His daughter, named Grace, dreamed of becoming a doctor. So Mang Edgar left everything behind and flew to America to work. He sent almost every dollar he earned back home to the Philippines. Grace was now in her 4th year of medical school at the University of Santo Tomas in Manila. Mang Edgar sacrificed his comfort, his pride, and his presence in his daughter's life, all so she could have the future she deserved. Mang Edgar drove Richard to work every morning and picked Vanessa up from campus every evening. He always greeted her with a warm smile and a polite good evening. He opened the door for her, carried her bags, and never once complained. But Vanessa never acknowledged him, not even once. One evening, Vanessa was with 3 of her college friends in the back seat. She pointed at Mang Edgar and laughed. She mocked his accent. She called him slow and old. Her friends laughed along with her. Mang Edgar gripped the steering wheel tightly, said nothing, and kept driving through the cold city streets. Another time, Vanessa spilled an iced coffee all over the back seat deliberately. She told Mang Edgar to clean it up immediately. When he knelt down to wipe the leather seats, she took a photo and sent it to her group chat with a laughing emoji. Mang Edgar cleaned it without a single word. Richard noticed how Vanessa treated Edgar. He confronted her one evening at dinner. Vanessa rolled her eyes and said he was just a driver. Richard felt ashamed but said nothing more. Catherine looked away. The silence at that dinner table was louder than any argument that family had ever had before. Despite everything, Mang Edgar remained patient. He had endured worse. He had slept on airport floors. He had worked double shifts in warehouses. He had cried alone in small rented rooms, missing his daughter's birthday celebrations. A spoiled young woman's insults could not break a man who had already survived so much pain. Then one freezing December night, everything changed. Vanessa was driving home from a party with a friend. The roads were icy. She lost control of the car at high speed. The vehicle slammed into a concrete barrier. The impact was devastating. Paramedics rushed her to the hospital in critical condition that night. Vanessa survived, but her recovery was long and brutal. She suffered broken ribs, a fractured leg, and deep cuts across her face. The physical wounds healed over several months, but the emotional damage went far deeper. She became withdrawn, angry, and deeply depressed. She refused to leave her room for weeks. The best therapists in New York visited her. Catherine brought her favorite things. Richard offered trips, gifts, anything she wanted. Nothing worked. Vanessa sat in darkness, staring at walls, refusing to speak. The girl who once had everything now felt like she had absolutely nothing left inside her broken spirit. If this story is touching your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Pinoy Spirit Chronicles. Stay and watch until the very end. The most powerful part is still coming. And comment Pinoy in the comment section below to show your love. Mang Edgar watched Vanessa's suffering quietly from a distance. He had seen this kind of pain before, not physical, but the emptiness that comes when someone loses their sense of purpose. One evening, he approached Richard with humble respect and said something that would change the Whitfield family's life completely forever. "Sir," Mang Edgar said softly, "my mother lives in Batangas in the Philippines. Her name is Lola Caring. Her home is simple, but her heart is wide. The air is clean, the people are kind. Sometimes healing does not come from medicine. Sometimes it comes from a different kind of life altogether. Richard was skeptical at first. Send his daughter to a province in the Philippines? It sounded impossible. But Catherine, desperate and exhausted from watching Vanessa fade away, looked at Richard and said, "We have tried everything here. Nothing has worked. Maybe Edgar is right. Maybe she needs something different." 2 weeks later, Richard, Catherine, Vanessa, and Mang Edgar boarded a private plane to Manila. From there, they drove 3 hours south to Batangas province. The roads became narrow. The buildings became smaller. The air became fresher. Vanessa stared out the window in silence, wondering where on earth they were taking her. They arrived at a small concrete house surrounded by mango trees and flowering plants. Standing at the gate was an old woman with silver hair, a warm face, and the gentlest smile Vanessa had ever seen. This was Lola Caring, Mang Edgar's 78-year-old mother. She opened her arms and whispered, "Welcome home, anak." The first few days were difficult for Vanessa. There was no air conditioning, no fast internet, no luxury. She slept on a wooden bed with a thin mattress. She heard roosters crow at dawn. She smelled rice cooking before sunrise. Everything was foreign to her. Everything was uncomfortable. Everything was the opposite of her life. But Lola Caring never pressured her. She never lectured. She simply included Vanessa in daily life. She woke her gently each morning to help prepare breakfast. She taught her how to cook singang and adobo. She brought her to the palenque to buy fresh fish and vegetables from smiling vendors. Lola Caring told Vanessa stories while they sat on the porch in the evenings. She spoke about Edgar as a young boy, how he loved reading books to his students, how he cried the night he left for America, how he called home every Sunday without fail. Vanessa listened quietly, feeling something shift inside her. One afternoon, Vanessa met Mang Edgar's nephew, Marco. He was 22 years old, an engineering student at Batangas State University, and he worked at the family's sari-sari store after classes. He was confident, funny, and honest. He did not care about Vanessa's last name. He treated her like a normal person. Marco took Vanessa to see the tall lake at sunset. He showed her the barangay basketball court where kids played barefoot. He introduced her to neighbors who offered food without being asked. Vanessa saw a world where people had very little but shared everything. It confused her at first, then it humbled her completely. One evening, Vanessa saw a framed photo on Lola Caring's wall. It showed a young Edgar in a classroom surrounded by smiling students. Below the photo was a small handwritten note that read, "Para sa kinabukasan ang mga bata," for the future of the children. Vanessa stared at it, and tears filled her eyes. She thought about every cruel word she had spoken to Mang Edgar. The mocking, the spilled coffee, the photos she sent to her friends. The shame hit her like a wave she could not outrun. She sat on the floor of that small house and cried harder than she had ever cried in her entire life. The next morning, Vanessa found Mang Edgar sitting under a mango tree, reading a letter from Grace. She sat beside him and said, "I am sorry, Mang Edgar. I am truly, deeply sorry. You are the most honorable man I have ever known, and I treated you like you were nothing. Please forgive me." Mang Edgar looked at her with kind eyes and said, "Anak, I forgave you a long time ago. Anger is too heavy to carry when you are already carrying your family on your shoulders. I never held it against you. I only prayed that one day you would see people the way God sees them." As weeks passed, Vanessa and Marco grew closer. Their bond was not built on wealth or status. It was built on honest conversations, shared laughter, and mutual respect. Vanessa had never experienced a connection like this before. For the first time in her life, someone loved her for who she was inside. When Richard learned about Marco, he was uneasy. He worried about the difference in background and status. But Mang Edgar sat with him one evening and said, "Sir, I left my family so my daughter could have a future. Your daughter found her future with my family. That is not something to fight." Richard sat in silence for a long moment. He looked at Mang Edgar, a man who had cleaned his car, opened his doors, and endured his daughter's cruelty without complaint. And yet this same man had more wisdom, more grace, and more dignity than most billionaires Richard had ever known in his entire career. The Whitfield family returned to New York, but Vanessa was no longer the same person. She changed her major to social work. She volunteered at immigrant shelters every weekend. She called Lola Caring every Sunday, just like Mang Edgar had always done. And she never ever looked down on another human being again. True wealth is not measured by the money in your account or the name on your building. It is measured by the kindness in your heart and the respect you give to every person you meet. Sometimes the greatest teachers in life are not found in universities. They are found driving your car in silence.